Throw on the thing. I've started the actual factual recording now. This is the thing. I'll give it 2 seconds of dead air, introduce you, and we just ramble. We just talk about whatever, anything comes to mind. Okay, here we go. Greetings, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Dreamscapes. Today we have our friend Greta Foster from Nevada. She is the founder of the National Organization of Feng Shui, or natorgfengshui.com. We're going to talk more about her in 2 seconds. Please stop what you're doing, like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. Got books for sale. Take direct donations, get a t-shirt, coffee mug, all that good stuff. That's enough about me. Back to our guest. Greta, we had a little bit of a scheduling snafu, and I'm glad we finally were able to connect. Oh no, it looks like you're frozen. That would happen right off the bat. Let's see if it straightens out. Oh no. You're back. I might leave that in. What the hell?
Yeah, just keep it recording through all this.
Right? Yeah. No, I can cut that out. Or well, that was like 5 seconds. People might find it amusing. I think my confusion, my technical errors, my utter amateur hour production is it's hilarious. I think it's funny. Hopefully, my audience also goes, "This guy, he can't get his shit together." I'm like the nutty professor, the kind of absent-minded. Well, I would humbly say, absent-minded, brilliant inventor or whatever. That's my vibe.
Well, you're a very prolific writer.
I would like to claim that they are all original works. Unfortunately, they are thus far very important reproductions of historical dream literature going back to the 15th through the 20th centuries. A lot of the great works of turn of the century stuff, theoretics that contributed to Freud eventually producing his, seminal 1900 work on the interpretation of dreams. He would have been familiar with all this material that I'm reproducing and putting out in a much improved form, in my opinion. I like to correct people on that because they think I wrote 12 books myself. But
I was curious. I was like, I need to ask him a question about these because there's like 30. Right?
I currently have 12 in release,
12.
working on the simultaneous audiobook and paperback copy for book 13. Book 14's in the works. I've got about 5 or 6 more, and then my first original work, I hope.
Right.
This is also my training process.
Well, that is such valuable resource for people who want to learn about dreams, and I usually was using this website. I think it's.
I lost you a little bit there. Which website? Sorry. Oh, it's gone staticky again. Oh, we're gonna have technical difficulties today. That is I might make that the title of the show.
Technical difficulties. Well, right. And that's part of the electricity going out in my apartment right now.
Oh.
This is all connected to psyche stuff. When you learn about feng shui through that website, I learned different symbols to look for in dreams and interpret it that way. And that is, the same as animal medicine that you learn in Native American culture. So, that would be another source of interpretation, I think, for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's one of the things where, so what I did was I tried to find, let's talk about me more. Sorry. I tried to turn it over to my guest and what she does, and she's fascinated by me. So of course I'm going to talk about myself because I can't help it. But okay, just briefly, we'll get back to you, I promise. What I've tried to do is originally find more obscure works that maybe people hadn't heard of and get those published first. So I had some unique material because there's a lot of the stuff I'm getting into now has other versions out there. They're not as good as mine, in my humble estimation. But what you mentioned about Native American folklore and that is mentioned in some of the books, but I need to go to more primary source material on that and find maybe, are there even books written on that subject. Maybe that's an original work I could produce at some point, like gathering these stories and saying this is how different tribes, say in America, interpreted dreams in their specific context. That you've inspired me to say that's probably something I should look into. Yeah.
Hello.
Welcome back.
All right.
That seems a little more stable.
Yes.
Until it's not. We'll see. Right? Fair enough. We can, I'll leave it up to you. Just pick it up and keep rolling, or would you want to start over?
That we can pick up where we left off, I think.
Fair enough. I just left it running. That's all my paranoia about not recording. I had a cat eat one episode, stepped on the keyboard. God, I'm going to move this again just in case. Okay. So before we were so rudely interrupted by technical difficulties, you were helping me connect the dots between, say, native traditions and feng shui, and that's where we were.
Yes, and also dream interpretation.
Yeah. Did you have some observations on that? I know we got completely lost in the train of thought, but
yeah, no worries. No, it really is. What is showing up on my screen now? Which is really funny. There's like a white square on the screen. So yeah, well, I'm not sure that we interpret dreams the same way is something to note. Because I basically look for symbolisms within the dream. Like, if there was a cat in your dream, there's specific feedback on what cats mean. And that would have been found in, maybe some of the things that you found. Like, what is the symbolism of the cat in your dream? And native cultures have this as well, where, nature speaks to them through symbolism. And that comes in the form of nature of some kind. And that's kind of where we are wild as in dream state, where we're in our psyche of that consciousness. And, it's REM. It's the brain wave state where you're dreaming and you're facilitating consciousness from another source than when you're awake. So yeah, it's very, very cool what you're doing with your podcast. And just to give a little bit more background about me, that it does include faith almost things where you're learning from multiple cultures a universal truth that they all teach, which, is harmony with the universe. And that comes through harmony with ourselves.
Definitely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it's very important what you were saying of the distinction between our sleeping consciousness and wakeful consciousness. There is a distinction in the idea that, as you were saying, I like the way you put it, that it's more raw state of nature type of brain flow or brain experience. Because our waking consciousness, we have not only we're bombarded by all these sensory stimuli, but we're also having this ongoing train of thought, which could be, I see a thing, I'm thinking about another thing, I have to do a thing over there, I'm working with my hands and focus. So we have all these demands on our attention that completely disappear when we're in that unconscious sleep state, and then things just kind of flow out of wherever they're at, whatever's on our mind at the time. Mm-hmm. And you did mention as well the idea that we have between you and I maybe a different approach. I am also trying to bring together multiple broad traditions, so I don't want to leave anything out. So I talked to the guy last week's episode. At this point, would be his was a very traditional Christian biblical dream interpretation framework. So I talked to him from inside that modality.
That's interesting. I actually had a dream where I got a hug from Mother Teresa.
Okay.
And it was very faith-based. It was like a kind of one of those where it was like very recognizable Christian figure and who has recently passed. And so that was very moving for me. And she's an interesting character that I would dream about. I don't know. That just seemed kind of weird.
For sure.
But it changed my day.
Oh, yeah.
It changed my day. And that's the thing about dreams, is they will come in and change the way you look at what you're talking about, all this program that we run in our waking life.
Yeah.
And, you know, some people just run the program. They, you know, the status quo or whatever you want to call it. And that is a mental construct as well.
Absolutely.
Where you're like charging your alpha waves, you know, you're basically focusing and you're tapping into one part of your brain, but there's other parts, you know, there's beta waves, delta waves, theta waves, that your brain is a computer basically. And
Yeah.
your heart is like the server. It's like the power behind it. And so, yeah, it's just very interesting. Like I said, that website, and then I started to just hone in on the symbolism. So like, you know, whenever you dream about water, that connects to your emotions. And if you're unable to process your emotions during your day life, it's when you're resting that your brain is basically, you know, restarting the button on all the things that it had to process that day.
Yeah, that's exactly how I've put it in a lot of ways, is that, you know, like the heart beats, the lungs breathe, the brain thinks. And these processes go on when we are not actively engaged with the external world, when we're unconscious in that sense. So wheels keep spinning, and we are very, very much processing both maybe what happened recently and our speculative side of what ifs for the future, different plans. It was a guy recently, I can't remember who said it, but he said we let our ideas die so we don't have to. We run through scenarios and say, what do I think is the likely outcome? And if an outcome is bad, we go, well, I don't have to do that in reality. I can decide to choose a different path, and I don't have to suffer that anticipated consequence because I've thought it through. And that I'll let that fictional version of myself that took a specific path, I'll let that die and go a different way in reality. And a lot of times that's, I think, what we're doing in sleep is processing all these things that we're trying to understand better. And sometimes it's specific questions like, what do I do about X? How do I feel about this, that, or the other? Sometimes it's just, I just need to look at this thing, whatever it is. I don't know what it is. What do I think or feel about this thing? We hold it out and look at it in our sleeping brain and say, this is a purely neutral observational exercise sometimes, which make for interesting dream interpretations, because I don't have an answer for people as much as just helping them understand perhaps what it is they were trying to understand. Just clarify the object in question.
Have you ever tried to tell time in your dream?
Okay, here's an interesting thing about me. DreamWizard, dreams, doesn't remember them. I have a handful, like literally I can count them on one hand of the dreams that I remember. I know that I did dream very often, but no recollection, no details, nothing I can grab onto and make a story out of, no sequence of events or images. I got nothing, which I think is part of my fascination with dreams.
Oh, wow.
But you mentioned time, and there is a broad swath of literature about the idea that a dream could seem to last 1,000 years and you were asleep for 5 seconds, or it can last all night and the experience was 30 seconds of experienced time in the dream that's disconnected from physical time in that way, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had those experiences?
Yes. I mean, and you're talking about time, space versus space, time, I think is how, you know, I like to explain it. And that's kind of a really cool thing, is that you can explore in this consciousness outside of time and space, you know, flying, breathing underwater, these type of things that you're only able to dream as far as what you've seen in your ocular, you know, your oculars are recording. all the visuals. So, you know, when you watch a movie, you now have an ocular vision in your brain of a mass murder, you know.
Yeah, and that may be referenced in a dream as something you experience, something you're investigating, depending on whether it's an adventure or a nightmare type of dream.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and that links up to something I'm getting from these books as well, which is studies on different types of, say, physical disability and how they affect dreams. Deaf people, deaf from birth, no sound in their dreams, no conceptual framework for even what sound is. They know the touch sensation of vibrations in the air. They can tell when someone's speaking. They can hear loud objects by the vibration. Something fell next to them. Their body vibrates with it. But knows that blind people, no visions. Blind from birth, they don't see anything in their dreams.
That's interesting too. Like if you dream in a different language.
Yeah, and in a very real sense,
I've never exactly. Yeah, no, you're fine.
It went staticky for a second there too. I thought you were paused.
Oh, geez, no.
I know it's happening again. We're going to have fun on this one. That's okay. Whatever, you know, between our scheduling snafu and the technical difficulties today, I am perfectly comfortable saying God, the universe, the spiritual powers that be want this to be difficult for us right now for unknown reasons. And I just roll with that, and I have to find it amusing, or, you know, what do you laugh or you cry? You got a choice. So I choose to laugh as much as possible.
Yes. I haven't had signage like this in a long time. Like all the lights in the bedroom went out, and now, you know, I think it's significance, and finding significance in your daily life is just like kind of what you would do with dreams. And we don't always see the magic in our daily mundane, but that is what the dreams can teach us. And, you know,
well, you did ask me
reflection. Yes.
Speaking of that, like finding magic in the mundane and the daily life, you did ask me, well, what was your question about? Like, what's it like to be a wizard? Or so, was that how you phrased it?
Yeah, I'm like, you're a wizard. So what is that like?
Well, I in the purely practical terms, it's branding. You got to call yourself something. I could have just been Ben the Dream Guy, I guess, but Dream Wizard. But I also have, and I released a I don't know, 10, 15-minute video on this too. What does this guy mean? What is he? This chubby neckbeard? What's he talking about? This wizard business? What the hell is that? I'm going to insult myself before anyone else can. Yeah, I'm fat. Deal with it. There you go. Right. To all the haters out there that I don't have, but eventually someone's going to be an asshole and like, I beat him to it. He can't insult me. Really. I'm open about everything. Wizard. So we were talking about the iconic images and what they mean. And that's what we get with wizard. So it shares the root word with wise, wisdom, and wizardry. It's all connected to this, to the same conceptual roots. And we get these iconic images because, you know, what is a wizard? Walks with a cane because he's old and stooped over. Why is he old? He's lived a long time. What happens when you live a long time? You've seen a lot of stuff. You know some things. Maybe you can pass it on. You can speak magic words that people need to hear, that will give them power to act in the world, to pass on education or whatnot. And also the experience of long experience with cause and effect gives you this apparently magical looking ability to predict the future and say, well, I've seen that before. This is what's going to happen. And people go, no, really? And it happens. I'm not always right about everything. I don't believe I have magical powers or talk to God or, communicate or summon demons or receive messages from angels or whatnot. But I like that. That's very much it's aligned with my mythological understanding of the trickster. And people think the trickster like tricking people, but the trickster is a boundary crosser. It's someone who challenges norms, maintains balance. I'm the crazy guy in the woods. I'm not the hero of the story. I'm the crazy guy he comes and talks to because I got that one piece of information he needs before he goes to fight the dragon. That's kind of where I put myself in that archetypal hero's journey situation. Long story short, cool. Like a 5-minute explanation. Sorry. I can talk a lot. That's my explanation. I don't know if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I am familiar with the wisdom root of that word. And I believe that witch is also in that word family. And, you know, I think, again, it comes down to magic and how it manifests, and mythological folklore is interesting too. So yeah, I don't know. I associate with a shaman myself.
Yeah. I think you just caught up.
Now?
I think you're back.
Okay.
You say you associate more with a shaman tradition.
Yes.
Yeah.
And working on the electromagnetic field and feng shui, and with some of the other therapies that I do, it's working in the electrical space, I guess, in this unseen energy field. And so it's electro, you know, it's electro shamanism. It's not working on the land, it's working on the electromagnetic field. And that's where an advanced brain state that is dreaming, you know, people who try DMT or other hallucinogenics, they also go to this alt consciousness state. And they're exploring their subconscious, but also, you know, they're exploring their psychology of themselves, which is different for every person. And that is where, you know, we have our uniqueness too. Everyone's brain is processing things to an extent a different way, but yeah, it's just, we all experience the same waking life. And that's actually a really great movie, is Waking Life, that is really awesome about the lines in consciousness and dreaming and awake. And in this particular film, in this film, he just keeps waking up from the dream, and he just keeps, you know, it's just perpetual. And like you said, he goes and he travels around and meets different people with different wisdoms to share. It's exactly what you were just saying.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's a good one. And it does, you know, lucid dreaming is fun, and it's something to try. Sorry, I'm getting spam calls.
That's okay.
Sorry, I'm getting distracted too.
That is the theme of today's episode. It's happening.
Oh, I know. All this transfer of knowledge is coming at such labored cost here. It's right? Crazy.
And I wonder about that sometimes, like the magic of it. Let's say there's higher powers, there's a plan, whatnot. I don't know, but there may or may not be. So if there is, my theory would be that there's something about the shape, form, destination of what we're doing that needs to be expressed in this way. Or we're kind of ships on the ocean, and there's just waves today, and the wind blows sometimes, and it's nobody's fault. No one did it on purpose. And if you're in that situation, my philosophy, you just ride the waves. What are you going to do? You're going to curse at the ocean? The ocean doesn't care. It's not going to do any good. Waste a bunch of time and energy. Right. Trim the sails.
You want to command your ship in a way that preserves your life. And I think that's a great analogy.
Thank you. That's something I do, is spending a lot of time trying to make connections in my head, things that are like other things, to make the explanations comprehensible to myself, number one, and then something I can share, hopefully in a kind of pithy aphorism type of way, like a short expression of some kind of basic truth. Hopefully, as I say, someday I will be a real wizard. I'm not just a wizard in training at this point. You know, I barely got my robes, just started on the journey. Still need to get a hat. I grew out the hair, but I think I should get a hat just because. I thought about putting on one of those little party cone hats for a birthday, just one for one episode, just ridiculously, because I think the whole conceit of me calling myself a wizard is hilarious. From that aspect of ridiculousness, it just tickles me, the absurdity of it, the idea that it's true and absurd at the same time. That makes me laugh. I love, like, Monty Python. That's good stuff.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen that before.
Well, one thing I didn't want to do was forget to talk more about your actual, like, your website, and it's in the description below for everybody. So it is NATORG, as in NatOrg, Feng Shui, FENGSHUI.com, NatOrg, fengshui.com. What do people find when they go there, and what do you do?
Yeah, so they just learn a bit more about our values. If they want to learn more, we have a home report that we do to teach people how to immediately integrate feng shui into their life. And it is a process.
Oh, it's giving us the damn staticky thing again. I'm sorry. Keeps cutting you off. We might have to give it 2 seconds to kind of balance out, just so you can complete a thought. Okay, I think you're back.
I am.
Yes.
I think I'm back.
Wonderful. They go to the website and you said they could do a home report, and that's kind of like a thing they can fill out, or can they move objects on and place them in, and you'll go, oh, this is good or bad, or, I mean, everyone should just go there right now and check it out, but.
Yeah. And I'm working on the business. It's been around for about a year. I've been doing feng shui for, over 10 years. So that's where I assist people, is from my 10 years of personal experience doing this. And dream interpretation is a huge part of it's basically what we can therapy that I recommend to people is try to keep a dream journal. Don't
it's going staticky again.
How ways you can you hear me now?
I think it might be getting closer. There's still stutter in your frame rate. I don't know. I don't know what to do. I wish I could help. I feel so helpless just watching, the technical difficulties happen and knowing there's nothing I can do but wait it out, and I have to keep interrupting you. Sorry about that.
Oh, we're fine. I think we got some good clips today.
For sure. No, and I can kind of piece it together a little bit. You were saying that part of your feng shui process and what you offer to people is also leaning into that dream interpretation stuff. That's part of the process.
Yeah, because you start to associate your different aspects of life with areas of your home, and you're able to address it in a way that's external from your feelings, but also, it's very physical and tangible, where you're addressing the root of your programming, which when you're able to do it yourself, you're able to override the external programs and support, it's about achievement too. I think like you're tapping into your psyche, you're trying to win the game, win the puzzle of your mind, to unlock more potential. Like, how much percent of your brain do you use? It depends on the diversity of the activities that you use on a daily basis. Like, if you're just reading all day long, you're only active in part of your brain. So using the map from feng shui. So basically I just started doing my fit. So you're going to support your health. You're going to collect images from your house. We give a worksheet. You take about 9 pictures of your house, and then we build a report for you.
Okay.
Yes. And so then we provide support if people are trying to just integrate feng shui into their house. They can do it in as few as 5 adjustments to the physical space. But we basically get people integrating this into their homes, because we do believe in the connection between home and health, and disease starts in the mind. And, if people aren't resting, they're not resting their brain, your organs are restarting every night too. They have a specific time of day that they go through their cleansing process or whatever. Just like, computers does help us understand ourselves to some extent, and to that, the programming verbiage.
I think that's also a very good analogy. Yeah, computers we're like wet hardware in a way. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Totally. And, you're talking about neural links and all this stuff to help people who are paralyzed.
Yeah, that's fascinating stuff coming along the pipeline. Yeah.
Yes, but maintaining this essence of humanity, the spirit of
Yeah.
the person, is the balance that has to be made. And going between different realms of consciousness, I think, is like you were talking about the jackal, but that's to be able to do that, you have to do the work in the dreamland, in dream world, and then bring it here. It doesn't really go the other way.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people maybe don't. Well, I'm not phrasing it in a negative, because a lot of people do understand the value of, say, at least theoretically, bringing out a dream to examine it and say, how does this apply to my life and what can I learn from it? And sometimes we have these memorable dreams that you're not quite sure what to make of it. It's good to have someone to help you. But the flip side, not the flip side, but what a lot of people maybe don't realize is that we're probably dreaming all the time. Well, I believe we're almost constantly dreaming. We don't remember it. The brain's just processing. And we're still getting valuable insights into ourselves. We're still solving problems. We're still examining objects in our 3D rotating mind, whether we remember it or not. And so a lot of times you'll have that experience where, and I tell people, sleep on it. You don't have an answer, sleep on it. You may not remember your dream at all, but you'll wake up in the morning with a better idea of what you might want to do about some particular problem or decision because you had time to just let it process in the background. And don't let it fool you that just the fact that you don't remember it doesn't mean it didn't happen. That probably something happened of benefit to you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Ideally, every morning is a fresh start, and you cleared your head enough that it doesn't build up.
Yeah, for sure. And I've long had a fascination with feng shui from the like ancient Chinese tradition sense of like this goes back at least a couple thousand years or more. I don't know if you could tell me anything more about the roots. Like I'm passingly familiar with it, but I'm sure you're much, much more knowledgeable.
Yeah. So it goes back almost 8,000 years. It's very old.
I was close.
Yeah, and so there's different schools of feng shui. But it is a Chinese medicine. So you have herbs. You have. Are we there?
It's doing the staticky thing.
We have herbs.
Oh, I cut you off again.
Energy work, which is.
Robot voice.
Can you hear me now?
Right. Okay, I think it's sorted out. Yeah. So
it's showing on my end. It finally showed me that the connection was unstable. Yeah. Like right at the end. Yeah.
So it goes back 8,000 years. It is a Chinese medicine. You were starting to say there's the herbal category. And
yes. Thank you. Yes. And the acupuncture. And then there's energy work. Which is things like Tai Chi and Feng Shui. So that's working on cultivating the energies, basically. Acupuncture is keeping your meridians, all your energy flowing, because, again, you don't want things to back up. And then the herbs, I would love to learn more about. I know, like, mushroom culture is huge right now. But that's all about balancing your chemistry to me. You know, what you put into your stomach and trying to come from a balanced perspective would start in your gut. And people are talking about that as, you know, your third brain now, or some people would say it's the original brain because that's how you were, you know, grown in the womb, was starting from your belly button.
Yeah. And if we took an evolutionary perspective, we were probably mobile stomachs long before we had a brain. Yeah.
And probably if you eat that late night Taco Bell, you're going to dream differently than if you're eating fruit salad or whatever. So
very well can be. Yeah. And that's a grand tradition in these books too, is that I'm reading is as they start moving from the spiritual side and an explicitly Christian interpretation of dreams in the kind of Middle Ages, moving into the more rationalist scientific side, a lot of dreams were just blamed on poor diet. And the funny thing is that most authors will say, yes, that's a thing. You can go to bed with indigestion and it'll disturb your sleep and you'll have bad dreams. That's not the only thing. So they were trying to tease that out and balance it a little bit, saying that it's a mixture of all these different forces and experiences working in us.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my tangent. Well, for all our technical difficulties, I think we've had a nice little chat about who you are and what you do, and gives me a little behind the scenes for the audience. I may have said some of this stuff before, but I don't do any pre-interviews. I don't talk to people. I don't research them. I don't have them tell me their dream. I need an experience that is bookended in a way that I meet someone. I talk to them. I get a sense of who they are. I hear where they're coming from on their different ideas. Then, roundabout now, we get that foundation established. Now we move into the dream, and now I have a little bit of a reference, but I haven't had time to think about it yet. I got to not overthink things. So that's my process, is the surprise and novelty of an encounter with someone, learning a little bit about them in the moment, having that fresh as I move into talking about what their life's all about in the context of the dream.
I got you.
Yeah, that's kind of how I do. Like if I over prepare, people, I'd love to write a book on my process as soon as I understand it. Well, this is as close as I can get so far. But I think people have heard me ramble enough, and we're ready to jump into your dream.
Okay, so yeah, like I said, I keep snippets of my dreams. Like I don't remember like this long story narrative type thing.
Fair enough.
I kind of pick out the moments, really. Yeah. So one of them I had fairly recently was flying into and over the ocean, and there was a pod of orcas that we were flying right over, and there was this feeling that I was being encouraged to swim with them.
Okay.
So yeah, that was it. And then
that was the full experience of that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we can start with that. And honestly, dreams don't have to be very long. They can be snippets of very specific events that happen, and they can be disconnected from other stuff. You don't have to remember what happened before or after. And literally got 3 lines of text here, but there's actually a lot more in there in my estimation. Let me see if we can tease that out. You said you have more than one. Just before I launch into this, did you want to focus on that one, or did you have, is that on the top of your list, so to speak? Like if you had to pick between multiple different snippets, do any of them feel more important?
The one about Mother Teresa too.
That was also relatively recent, or?
That was actually like over 10 years ago.
Okay, but that one stuck with you. That's interesting. Sometimes when dreams are I would assume the 5 dreams I can remember had some kind of importance such that they would be memorable for that duration. And this goes back 40 years of specific dreams I can remember from that long ago. So it's entirely up to the dreamer every time. If you're like looking at that Mother Teresa dream, you're like, I need to know why that happened. I'm happy to do it. If the more recent one you think might be more important in terms of your current life, we can do that one. Either which way.
Well, the Mother Teresa dream, that's going to always stick with me. And it's just really one of those things, And then, sure. But it changed my perspective on life. So, to me, it was a blessing from God. So yeah. That's the interpretation. That was a blessing from God, and it made me feel God's love.
Okay.
And the experiences that's tangible. It's like if you cry in your dream, that's an advanced expression of emotion. You don't just cry in your dream. you know, you bottle up, you can't run, you can't speak, you're impaired in some way because you're out of your realm. And it gets you to realize how much you're in control of different aspects of your mental state, really. But in that case, it's like channeling from other realms, to have someone come through from post-death. And I've had that happen with other celebrities that are past, not to say, you know, who you don't really think of Mother Teresa as a celebrity, but like Robin Williams and Chris Cornell and Chris Farley, and it's John Candy, like these kind of like random comedians, you know, but that's again the duality of the comedy and the drama, and their lives were embodying that, and that comes through mastering of your consciousness, and that's everything. That's the point of this game, if you ask me. Is mastering your consciousness. And like I said, the puzzle analogy, or unraveling all the words could not express the feelings and emotions that you experience in dreams. It's true. It's not sufficient, is the word.
Not only is there more in dreams than people describe, giving a brief description, there's more than can be described. And a lot of people struggle with it, or it doesn't even register in a way that's comprehensible for description, is kind of how I put it. And so this is why I tell people
poetic. It's poetic though.
Yeah. That's why I tell people never be afraid to say I'm on the wrong track, or if I rattle the wrong doorknob and there's nothing there, you're like, I don't know. That's perfectly fine. I ask a lot of questions that people have no answers to, because I just have random ideas.
My electrician's calling back. Hold on one second.
Oh, sure thing. I'll make a little note of the time here. We'll chop it in. They're literally heading over right now.
Yeah. So I only had an hour blocked out. I'm sorry for the technical. If you want to reconnect, I'm open to that. I really enjoyed speaking with you. So
you can think about it.
Yeah, I'll think about it and I'll email you after.
Yeah. No, that's good. We'll call it for today. I'll go ahead and pause.